Our next writer, Nick V. Markevicius, channels all the little voices in his head, as well as those what-ifs that most people dismiss, right into his work. As a result, he's become known as an author of unusually weird fiction, 8 novels and counting, a collection of flash fiction entitled Thong-Sized Stories, numerous short stories, and his novella, Head. He leads the Fox Valley Writers Group and recently participated in a panel, I think it was, at the Elgin Literary Festival. His work is available on Kindle, the web, and the old-fashioned way, which I assume is paper. Yeah. Find out more information at theimaginaryplayground.com. Nick, come on up.
Hi, everybody. If you would have told me 15 years ago that I was going to get up here and do something nonfiction, I would have laughed in your face, probably told you that you have no idea who I am and what I write and all that other stuff. And then somehow I end up leading a writer's group and thinking about writing processes all the time and kind of talking about it on a blog that we started thanks to Kevin turning me on to another blog called Drinkers with Writing Problems, which is about what you think. And all of a sudden I realized I had a lot to, I was thinking a lot and had a lot to say about writing and about how I get from A to B. It's been a little challenging lately, mostly because my wife and I have 2 young kids, and well, you'll hear some of that in here, but basically it's turned everything a little topsy-turvy. If you have kids, you know. If you've been a kid, you probably know too. I'm going to read 2 pieces here. They're both available on foxvalleywriters.wordpress.com, which is my writers group, the Fox Valley Writers blog that we try and maintain on a semi-regular basis. So if you want to go back and check this out again or check out the work of some of the people that I hang out with every other week, by all means do. Everybody's got an interesting take on different things on there. This one's about first drafts and, well, creativity in general. When I started writing this a few days ago, I had wholly different intentions regarding its content. Like most of my ideas, things start off going one way before suddenly veering off. Often I feel like that Allstate Mayhem commercial about the GPS messing up, the one that goes, recalculating. And that's about the simplest way I can describe the initial steps of my creative process. If you could see inside my mind, it might be a lot like a route mapper suggesting 7 different possibilities at every single intersection, including a few that take me backwards rather than closer to my destination. This article is or reading, or call it what you will, is a terrific illustration. I started out writing about my low opinion on the value of nostalgia in a media-driven culture. I thought I had a full-fledged argument in my head, but when I went to set it down, I found myself veering all over the place. I wound up talking about my dad, the divided segments of my childhood, and eventually wound up carrying on about my creative process. All of this happened in about 48 hours. My emotions on the work have gone from fired up to disappointed to confused to a species of growing contentment finally as I'm typing here. I found my path to a story I want to tell. When it comes to my writing process, that's both simpler and more complex than it seems. You see, most people, when they discover a dead end while driving, back up and try a different way. That's the safe and expected solution as far as society is concerned. Stick to the road, and if the road ends, back up, try another way. The thing is, I can't allow myself to care about standard or normal perceptions of the writing process. Even if the ideas come from respected or successful sources, it doesn't matter. At this early hour in the workflow, the writing belongs to nobody but me. It's not out there for public consumption yet. It's not even a fully realized story, except maybe in my head. And as I'm about to illustrate, even that can be very dicey. See, when I realized my story's road took me to a dead end, I know I can back up, return to the last intersection, go left, go right, or back up again. Each of these will expose new avenues of possibility, creating a butterfly effect of what if, in which action leads to consequence, which requires more action, and so on and so forth. That's permissible and often a good idea, but it's not the only option. When I hit that first dead end, I also allow myself the freedom to explore what would happen if I drove through the house on my left, or the open lot on my right, or down the nature trail where I shouldn't be driving at all. Then there are the nonlinear options. By this I mean I can, in effect, put the car into hover mode and fly over what lies beyond that dead end. In this way, I can also circumvent the whole go back and try a different route process that I laid out earlier. This goes back to what I said about story belonging only to me at this stage. In the first draft, it doesn't necessarily have to be written beginning to end, the way someone would read it. To be sure, the product of writing must take readers on a journey from A to B to C and so forth, but the process of writing does not have to obey that rule. When I'm writing, really scribbling something out from the ether of ideas that I call the imaginary playground, I don't need order. I can skip ahead as far as I want to a scene or passage I'm more certain of and write on that for a while. Because in nonlinear writing, working toward the goal is the most important thing. I can write A and then B, then find myself stuck and skip to what I perceive to be for F without first working myself out of the dead end where I thought C was. Let me say it this way. It's the whole that counts in the end. A to Z as a whole is a destination, not a roadmap when it comes to writing. I can't express strongly enough how gratifying it is to write in this manner. I'm not often stuck on a passage I don't understand or see well enough yet. All I have to do is write myself some notes, draw a line, and skip ahead. What's even better is how writing the aftermath allows me to understand the setup. In the language of my example, skipping from B all the way to F allows me to then talk about F and G, which informs many of the blanks associated with getting from B to C, and when extrapolated, D to E to F, where I skipped to in the first place. Not writing in a straight line facilitates not thinking in a straight line, which I'll bet anyone who's serious about telling stories in any medium would agree is a valuable and sometimes necessary skill. This isn't the only method that works, of course. OCD types hearing this are probably feeling the beginning of a panic attack when they consider all the unfinished bits of story my method both demands and implies, but I can say with authority that it's a valid method. It keeps me writing rather than lamenting a blockage. When one sees the whole of the story, the big picture, as the container rather than the material, it values the work over the method. That's my overall message here. Story is achieved as a whole, story is achieved as a whole, not as, I'm so sorry. I lost my place here. That's my overall message here. Story is achieved as a whole, no matter how that whole is assembled. It's the writer's job to complete that whole. It's our passion, which allows us to fill the container, which is our story. The how of the filling is unimportant, so long as it gets filled. The best advice I can give any creative person is get working, get filling up your container, no matter how that works out, because that way is the right way to tell your story. Everything else, excluding impulse or inspiration, is a consequence to that choice towards permission. There's joy and empowerment in embracing that. If you're even the teensiest bit creative, I invite you to explore the concept. I'm sure I have plenty more to say on the subject. After all, creativity is what I do. For now, however, my jump-around brain is telling me to stop, think, reload the synapses, or more accurately, it's probably just got its hand up and palm out to say enough. I'm going to heed that voice, as I do most of the others talking inside my skull, at least for the moment. The next and last piece I'd like to share with you is about thinking about goals. I like to think about what I want to do with my writing because by day I deliver mail and I don't really like it. It's just something that keeps me having a house and a family and the things to keep us basically alive. Popular wisdom often tells us that making resolutions for the new year is a faulty idea. People don't stick to them, or don't take them seriously because they were made while blitzed and trying to count backwards from 10 in time with a bunch of other inebriates. What's more, the resolution is often a statement rather than a plan, and right there, that's the problem. I'm going to lose weight is noble, but it lacks a predicate. Now, I'm going to lose weight by going to the gym 3 times a week. That's a plan. This year, I'm taking exactly such an approach to my writing goals. I've been making them for the last few years, these resolutions, right around the turn of the calendar, although both the term and the timing are a matter of convenience rather than necessity. I'm a guy who wants to publish for a living, and I believe it can be done so long as I treat my writing as both art and a job. To that end, my writing resolutions read a lot more like a corporate action plan than a gathering of daydreams. That's a good thing, even if it's not very spur-of-the-moment artsy. I've discovered greater focus and engagement with all aspects of my writing through planning. With that in mind, here are my 2016 writing resolutions, complete with explanation and concrete positive methods for sticking with the plan. 1, write every day. This is the single most important thing I can do at this point in my life. I feel better about myself when I'm consistently writing, and that leads to a better home life for me and my family. As the father of a newborn and a 3-year-old, I need to be responsible yet flexible in keeping this promise to myself. The former is achieved by getting up on time, even after nights when I've been changing diapers or just getting a crappy night's sleep for whatever reason. I still need to stick to my morning routine because it's the best chance at a considerable block of uninterrupted writing time. However, sometimes the current events of life will thwart my best efforts. In those cases, I must remember that I've got the tools to write at other times of the day and at locations other than at my desk. Today is a perfect example. I'm writing this in the dining room table because my older son is awake at 5 a.m. and wants to hang out with Daddy. The most important thing is getting the writing out, even if some days are more challenging than others. 2, send it out. I consider myself a professional, which being by definition means I want to earn a living from my work. If that's true, I need to submit my work to traditional publishers on a consistent basis. I will keep all finished stories out in the field looking for homes. I've purchased a subscription to Duotrope, and then I will spend at least 2 evenings per week making sure my stories stay in circulation. This is another case where I've acquired the tools to do this from anywhere, not just in front of my computer on top of my desk, so excuses are out of the question. 3, stay organized. My writing process encourages me to work on multiple projects at the same time. There's no getting around it. My methods are as hardwired as my sexuality or my food preferences. Every time I've tried creative monogamy, my work and my happiness have both suffered. To that end, I'm doing 3 specific things to ensure I keep on top of my writing needs and my writing responsibilities. First, I'm keeping all my current projects in a cloud-connected folder. If I've been working on it in any way, shape, or form over the last 12 months, it lives in that cloud. Next, I'm keeping my completed work in a separate cloud-based folder so I can find and use it for resolution number 2 discussed above. Last, I'm keeping a to-do list for writing-related business, so the mundane things aren't overshadowed by the more creative aspects of the writing process. 4, promote myself. I have a blog, a Facebook page, I'm on Twitter, and some other networks too. Oh, and I have a bunch of books for sale on Amazon. I need to make sure I'm getting the word out via social channels on a regular basis. I'm already using a tool called Buffer to help streamline this process, and I plan on exploring its functionality to the fullest. In addition, I will explore paid online promotion/advertising this year. Finally, I will continue to publish my own books on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle formats, thus leveraging all the paths to publication available to me, which works again in tandem with resolution number 2 above. Now, I originally had close to about a dozen resolutions, but true to my creative process, I started with way too much, then cut and merged ideas as some of what I wanted to communicate developed. Some things stuck together and grew, while other things became subordinate details of the 4 resolutions I wound up with. That's not just good, but correct to me, and that's how I knew when I was finished.